Hey, welcome to Mary Walter Radio. Great to have you. I apologize for no music tonight, and I also apologize for James. He's not here. I'm Mary Walter. James Rabick, my work husband, should be joining me shortly. Thursdays are hard for him. He has class he teaches, and I think he teaches drums or guitar or something. And he's been texting me, I'll be there just in time. And clearly he's not, and that's okay. I apologize. I got lots of, first of all, some comments here. James listening to Muzak, waiting for Mary to take the stage. Sorry, it's Muzak. And Al said I came early to listen to James's music. If you missed Tuesday's podcast, we launched a new podcast on Tuesday, 7:15 Eastern time, just like this one. Same place, get her in YouTube to watch it. And it is called Life with Mary Walter. And it's lighter, it's more fun topics. We try to steer clear of politics. This coming Tuesday show should be a lot of fun because I just have a very fun topic planned for Tuesday's show. So that should be good. So, you know what, and you can always go to the YouTube page, just search Mary Walter Radio, and you can go there. And you can watch them anytime you want. So if you don't get to watch it live, that's fine. And of course, please subscribe to the channel and please like the podcast. It's really helped. Thank you so much. So I was kind of hoping we would have more of James's music tonight. We had a nice little intro to the show on Tuesday. It was so professional, and I thought we were going to have it, but James he's got like 3 jobs, poor guy, and because this pays nothing, and he has like 3 jobs, and we're kind of hoping he would get some of his band's music that we could use in the intro to this show as well. So we have a week, maybe in the next week, James will have some time to do that. So that would be wonderful. When he gets here, Al, I'll put the rest of your comments up for him. Okay. So there you go. I also apologize because I know that this outfit, let me take this down. I was like, I have the black fireplace behind me. So it's really hard to wear black on this podcast. When I do the podcast or if I do TV hits or whatever, I can't wear black because as Ron, who will be here, he comes, he's Squeaky, whatever his name is here. Oh, there's James. There's James. There he is. Hello. How are you?
I was late because I was hanging out with the Coast Guard.
Oh, well, you can hang out with my husband. He's in the Coast Guard.
He is in the Coast Guard. It made me think, like, I know other people in the Coast Guard. What a cool job.
Yeah. Oh, that's good. We can tell us about that. But I was just apologizing because I was cold because what I have on is short sleeved. See? Right. And I was cold. So I had to put a jacket and I had a sweatshirt on, but it was like a crummy old sweatshirt. I was like, well, I have a nice shirt on. It should look a little nicer. But the black blends in with the black fireplace on me. So I kind of just look like a disembodied head, you know? So I apologize for that.
Did you say, by the way, look nicer on the show? Sure.
Oh,
look nice on the show. Sure. I did not look nice at all.
Well,
I'm wearing a t-shirt today. I love this t-shirt though, by the way. One of my favorite podcasts on the planet.
What does it say? What makes this song?
What makes this song great is a gentleman named Rick Beato who puts out a show. Has a great channel. He's a famous producer.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah, he does it. What makes a song great is him breaking down songs down to like the individual tracks, and you get to hear the vocals by themselves. He tells you about the chords and how songs are made. Yeah,
sounds boring, but sure. So there's some comments here for you. First of all, Al says, look what he says.
We should have one for this too.
I know. I thought you were going to do that, but I know you're crazy busy. So maybe by next week we'll do something. You'll get something together.
I will have. I will have them both wired out.
So he wants you to listen to this song.
The title here is "The State of Richard Nixon," and I want to replace Richard Nixon with Joseph Biden. The original song is by.
Ready? Hold on.
Phil Oakes. Search for it. See if you like it. Notice.
His punctuation. He's so proud of himself. And he says, I apologize for interrupting the podcast to get a message to James. Hope it was okay. It's fine now.
I will happily look that up, buddy.
Okay. And he also sent this. Just listen to that song, Mary. You have to search for it. Okay. Boy, Al is very prolific here. If I get to do the vocals, I will get the mechanical license. Okay. Please ask James to read my messages. Oh, I look beautiful.
Hey, Al, if you want to shoot me a message on Facebook, feel free to look up James Richard Switch and then DM me a message. I can help you figure that out.
Okay, cool. And also, James, I had some requests for your music since on the Tuesday night podcast we use your music as the intro to the show while the countdown's going on, and a couple of people asked where they could find your music. Is there a place where they can find your music?
So shortly, I'm gonna have, because we're actually making a record now. So shortly, we're gonna have like more social media back up again. But you can, if you look up on YouTube, the number 3 Noodle Stew, some like live performances will definitely come up from when we played the Hard Rock. There's one from we played. I can't think of the guy. It was like an old show about, for bands, like a local cable access show for local bands. Inside Music Today. We're on there twice.
All right.
So yeah, we come up.
3, the number 3 Noodle Stew.
Yep. Worst name ever, because there's 4 of us, sometimes 8 of us. So there's never 3 people ever. Never happens. There's no trio of that.
Remember somewhat, right?
I love, because people butcher it. That's why I love the name. They'll be like, "Aren't you like 3 Noodle Crew or 3 Stew Dog or something?" They'll say all kind of ridiculous things, and I'm like, "At least you're trying, and that makes you think about us." So you're trying to figure out the name, you're thinking about us.
That's good. So, all right. So I have so much news. There's so many good stories. I had to winnow them out, and I apologize if you've heard some of them. I understand that like there are some people who live for news, and you're going to be on a lot of the websites I'm on. You're going to be consuming a lot of the news I'm consuming. So I apologize if you've heard these, because I promise you we try to do the show about news you haven't heard. But I think it's pretty important to know because these are things that the mainstream media is not telling you. And we, of course, you can comment on them just by leaving messages, and I'll try to get them up. And if you're over on Getter, of course, I will have to read them because they don't come up. So there you go. And by the way, I apologize for my hair. My hair looks like a disaster today, doesn't it? It's a mess. It's like all over the place. So very quickly.
I kind of like it.
Do you really? You kind of like
it? I kind of like it, yeah. I kind of like it, yeah.
Well, it's going to be this way for a while.
Like it looks casual.
When I got COVID last November, I got COVID like right after Thanksgiving. So when I got COVID, a couple of weeks after that, I had the COVID fatigue. I had the whole bit. And like January-ish, like when my smell and my taste came back and my COVID fatigue and my COVID fog, cleared up and everything, I noticed my hair was falling out. So you can get COVID hair loss, which I did not know was a thing. But my hair was coming out like big time, like so much so that I was afraid. I started, because I thought I was crazy, I would run my fingers through my hair and just clumps of hair was coming out of my head. And I was like, I'm not going to be bald. So I have thyroid disease. And what happened was COVID just like kicked my thyroid into sleeping mode. Like it just wasn't functioning. And my numbers were all over the place, which explains why I lost my hair. So my doctor had to put me on stronger meds. And now my hair's coming back. So I literally, you probably can't see it, but all over my head, like if I pull my hair back in a ponytail, I have hair. I'm like Pippi Longstocking. I got hair sticking out all over the place because it's growing back in and it's a little bit more than an inch long. I have it here in the front. I've got to like spray it up because it all sticking down and it sticks straight up on the top of my head. So I'm trying to like get it to stay down. It's a disaster. It's
80s hair has to come back. So I mean, you could just throw it up and be great.
Oh, wait, I have a picture. Is it here? Hang on one second. Don't go anywhere. I'll get
I will entertain you. Yep. So I would die to see what I think is about to see Mary wearing her hair like it's 1987. That will make me so happy. You cannot imagine it. That's what we're about to get.
All right.
Mary showing her hair from 1987. If that's what I'm about to see, Mary, I can't wait.
I can't find it. It was here. I don't know what happened to it.
Oh,
I don't know.
I would kill to see that picture. They're my favorite things of seeing people in their past.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, can you hear me okay?
Yeah. Okay. I heard I was a little loud last time, so I'm trying to talk quieter.
No, it went to ambient mode, and now I'm really loud in my head, and I don't know why. I put the headphones on. So I have a picture. I'll have to find it. My hair, I kid you not, it needed to be cut, and it was permed within an inch of its life. And it's this big. How the heck? And we were newly married, going over to my brother and sister-in-law's house in Philly. And so there's like throw on some stretch pants, big sweater, very 80, late 80s, early 90s look, very Madonna.
Even calling them stretch pants sounds like the 80s.
Yeah, but stretch pants are in now. Like the yoga pants, stretch pants, it's not going away. It's here to
stay. That's the thing. Now they call them yoga pants or leggings, right? I remember in the 80s they were stretch pants. That's so funny.
Right. Well, I have stretch pants on right now, but you can't see them because it's black.
Right. They blend right in. Yeah. I love how Same thing. Terms change. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, Al likes my hair this way too. Well, hopefully it's going to calm down, but I'm glad that it's growing in. But anyway, I have this picture. I
Right.
went over to their house. My hair needed to be cut badly. I did nothing to it. I kid you not. I look like Roseanne Dana from the old SNL skits. Remember Gilda
That's great.
Radner,
Yeah.
Roseanne
Yeah.
Dana from New Jersey, right?
Oh, it's so good. It's so good.
Huge.
I love that.
It's not a. I wish I knew that was right there. Where did it go?
Hmm.
That makes me wonder if my husband took it to blackmail me.
Yeah, I was gonna say IT might have taken it to blackmailing.
Yeah, I wonder where it sat here for years. I don't know where it went. All right, I'll find it. Okay, so let's get to it since we're having too much fun and we're not going to focus on anything and we're not going to get to any of the news and then
Focus.
Focus, people,
Let's
focus.
get angry. Let's get angry
right.
now.
Now, you may have heard this news, but I just wanted to go over it quickly because it's everywhere. Apparently, federal investigators are deciding whether to charge Hunter Biden with various tax and foreign lobbying violations, false statements, and his gun, illegal gun possession,
Oh,
right?
geez.
Having to do with his gun, right? Finally,
How is
they're
he
thinking
not
about
in
it.
prison? Well, they have to. I don't think they could at this point go any much farther without it being like the Jeffrey Epstein thing, where we all saw him get killed, but he committed suicide. So
Well,
they can't. I mean, they can, right? I mean, they've proven that the governments can just do stuff and just make it disappear. We all forget about it. But this is so in the news, right? I mean, it's so covered, and even some like liberal, not necessarily mainstream media news people, but liberal like podcast talk shows and those kind of like the more open liberal thing are really on this and like, hey man, he's a cancer to our party. Like it's not going away for him.
well, if they go in, and by the way, just give your Facebook thing again for Al.
Oh, I'm sorry, Al. It's and anybody who wants to DM me, James Richard Switch. That's just my name with a couple nicknames I had attached to it.
Okay.
Yeah, James Richard Switch.
James says you're interrupting in the middle of watching Kill Bill Volume 2 to attend your show. Well, thank you so much, James. We'll try to keep it to an hour. We'll try to put chop here. And Al says, don't cut your hair. Well, it does need to be cut, but it's the problem, right? Listen, I'm just glad it's growing in. And the fact that it's growing all over the place, and I look like I stuck my finger in a socket and there's nothing I could do about it until it gets longer. So instead of growing straight out, it starts to come down.
Right. Yeah.
Fine.
Yeah. Totally.
Could be worse. All right.
But Hunter, that you're that story's not going away. I think
It's
responsible
not, but
people.
here's the thing. So I have a couple questions. Do you think if they actually do charge him, first of all, if they charge him, is it going to go anywhere? I just don't think anything happens to him. Well, we have FBI raids. There's a meme going around on social media that they're raiding Trump. They stopped Peter Navarro and put him in leg irons at the airport. They raided Mike Lindell. They're raiding all these people. Not one person whose name was in Ghislaine Maxwell's black book has been raided.
Right.
Right.
That's why she's alive.
It's selective, right? So if he is charged, do you think it goes any further than charging, or it's gonna be like, well, he didn't mean it, and he's just gonna get slapped on the wrist?
I do think generally, across the board, although it's proving not to be 100% true, generally rich people are real good at getting out of this stuff, and anybody with political connections really helps. But I kind of think Biden would throw him under the bus if it meant like destroying the Democratic Party or having to bury his own kid. I think he lets the FBI do his thing, especially if it cannot affect him. Like if giving Hunter up is the prosecution means nothing happens to him, I think he would do it.
Yeah, here's the thing though.
He's a politician.
If they go after him on taxes, it opens up Hunter's finances.
Yeah.
And Joe Biden, Tony Bobolinsky's all over media talking about how Joe Biden's the big guy and was getting a 10% cut of everybody.
Look, I agree that, look, in any way, and I've said the same thing, mirror the concept of guys I've heard on the House committee. What really Trump did, it's bad. If Biden's really connected to this, it's bad. We always say this because you and I come from such a libertarian mind. I mean, I'm all for just getting whoever is corrupting our system, and if it's Biden at the top, then he's got to go.
I agree.
If he's corrupt on any level, he's got to go.
Here's the third question, though. if Hunter does go to jail, if they sacrifice Hunter, is that the signal that the Democrats are cutting Joe Biden loose?
Yes. Yeah.
Like
Don't
they're
you
done.
think they
He's
are?
a sacrificial lamb. They're done with him. But do they put Kamala in then after the midterms?
No. Well, maybe.
She's the next. She's the one who goes in, right? Kamala's the one. If you get rid of Joe Biden, if he gets dumped out of the presidency, which I can't believe he's lasted this long, but if he gets dumped out of the presidency, Kamala Harris is, I mean, the vice president ascends. That's it.
Yeah. She becomes she ascends, right? Well,
so here's what they're saying. Oregon.
It is how the system works, and again, you can make this thing like, oh, well, Trump made a bunch of gaffes and said the thing, but have you heard Biden? Which is what I tell all my liberal friends, like, yeah, but Trump isn't president. Biden's the one who's president now, making serious gaffes in public. Like, not one, not three. Multiple, really like brain scattering gaffes that you're like, you should be questioning his sanity.
Right.
And again, it really shouldn't matter because, again, what did Trump do? He did go and get checked, right? Right? Trump went and got checked. He actually went and got checked.
And they didn't believe it. They went after his doctor, right? Of course, it wasn't a real test. They went after his doctor. Oh, it wasn't real.
And his doctor is 100% qualified. So it just showed that Trump is a terrible speaker, and when he's not thinking right, he says really dumb things. And he doesn't do it all the time, but he did enough that we've all seen them and they happen. It just proves that he's a bad speaker, right? He's not a great speaker, and that's one of my criticisms. But he's not mentally deficient. They tested it.
I would rather
it's what it is.
I would rather have a politician that's a poor speaker but says exactly what they're going to do and says exactly what they mean than someone like Barack Obama who is an incredible speaker and just lied to us. It's like dating. I'd rather date a guy who says, you know what, great date, but I'm just not calling you tomorrow. I don't feel it. Let's not do this again. I'd rather have that than the guy who's like, oh, baby, and like is totally suave. It's like Rico Suave. Totally suave and, and says the right things and everything else. And you get your hopes up and then he leaves you hanging. That was Barack Obama. Trump was much more the guy who may not say it eloquently, but he's like, you know what, this wasn't so great. So let's not do this again. And you're like, oh, all right. Well, at least I know where I stand.
I think Trump is that a-hole who tells you like it is. And you're like, that hurt. but it's true. Yeah.
I love what James says here. Hunter could drive a car off the Tyke Bridge, save himself, and get away with it. Yes, he could.
100%.
100%. Because he's royalty. He's Democrat royalty. James Bond, going after Hunter opened Trump for charges because Doki's been bipartisan by charging Hunter. I think he's saying the DOJ has been bipartisan by charging Hunter. They're going to go after Trump no matter what anyway, even if they don't have anything. We know that. We know that they made stuff up and they ran with it in order to get the FISA warrants and stuff like that. There's also apparently, and I forgot to pull the story, but there's also apparently now a problem, yes, DOJ, with the warrant application to raid Mike Lindell. So we know that the FBI and the DOJ, they get a little problem with fudging some of those papers. We know they've done it in the past. So if past is prologue, there you go. Why wouldn't they do it again? And apparently there are some questions now about the Mike Lindell warrant. So just a little bit more about Hunter here. Let's see. According to this former official telling Fox News, an outcome in the case could be imminent. Let's see. In July, they said the investigation was in a critical stage. He's been under investigation since 2018. But the same people who are investigating him, although it is in Delaware, but the feds purposely sat on the Hunter Biden laptop, and 50 of them came out and lied and said it was Russian disinformation when they knew darn well it wasn't Russian disinformation. This is why I have zero hope that there's any justice in this case at all, period, end of story. I think he walks or he gets a slap on the wrist. Yeah, okay, so you lied on federal forms to obtain a firearm. Just do some community service. You and I would be in the Who Scout. right? Joe
Oh
Biden,
God.
right? Joe Biden wants he's going after legal gun owners, but his son will get community service.
Do you know what? And this goes to exactly what's happening with Biden. Made me the angriest I've ever been in my life. For the amount of times that I get pulled over in my life, that I've had been pulled over for seemingly really dumb stuff, and then watching a guy do a horrible illegal lane shift, right, in like a Mercedes or BMW, and drive crazy fast, right by a policeman who did nothing. And I went, the horrific injustice of knowing that I would have 5 cops when I'm pulled over. They'd pull me out of my car, search my car, but this dum-dum's driving like a maniac, and the cop's like,
Yeah. Yeah.
really makes you think. And because it just happened to be that he was in a rich car, it made me even angrier.
Of course.
When you're in an 8 Series BMW or something, I'm like, wow, no, why'd you get away with it?
They do say that a disposition or resolution may be imminent in advance of a possible Republican takeover of the House of Representatives. So maybe they want to wrap this up before Republicans get involved, because Republicans might actually do something. I don't have a lot of faith in that either. So there's that. Public opinion's turning on the DOJ. Yes, exactly. It is. Let's see. They have not said whether a new grand jury has been impaneled. Let's see. He could face possible false statement charges. That would be on his gun, right? His gun forms, false statements there, And do you think that Joe Biden now just making a law, like he's just going to like just decriminalize marijuana nationwide? Like anyone who has been convicted of marijuana charges now is now going to be, Joe Biden's going to just absolve them, which I don't think he gets to rewrite the laws, right? That's Congress does that, right? Not Joe Biden, right?
I thought that's do that. Right.
Do you think that has anything to do with this?
Well, I mean, look, let's be realistic. If they federally legalize marijuana, whatever president does that is going to get loads of votes next time around. And if he's not setting it up for him, he's setting it up for the Democrats, right? I mean,
but the
Trump had that chance
to do that. Congress has to do that. And that's
of course. So, right. So what is he saying? He's going to do a, what's that called when the president just waves his magic wand there?
Executive order?
Is he going to executive order this? And then let Congress decide either that we don't like it, we're going to fight it and cancel it, or they're going to turn it into law, right? I mean, I don't know. Isn't that how it works? I mean, I'm not saying executive orders are right, but I mean, if he does it as an executive order, isn't that what ends up happening? Because some have been overturned.
It could be overturned. And we're going to talk about that coming up, actually, something with that. Just very quickly, John says nobody F's with the Biden. Remember on the mic? Joe Biden.
Nobody. James is 100% right. Sorry. Go ahead.
And he also said a Hunter's Community Service will be giving painting lessons.
Right. Well, that's the god-awful BS. Look, you said Maxwell. I mean, we know why she's alive in prison, right? Because she's not saying anything. The people she has stuff on are really rich people of both parties, and those people don't want her talking so I'm sure she made a deal, because she's in easy prison right now, easy federal prison, watching TV and playing games and not having to say a word. So. Did
you see what James says here?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. He's so absolutely right. Yeah.
He's absolutely right. See, okay. The New York Post is reporting that Biden's Delaware visitors records, the Secret Service says they checked twice. They just can't find any records to identify visitors to Joe Biden's Delaware residences. They just can't find them.
Huh.
Weird. It's weird. Yeah, they're missing. The Constitution doesn't apply to the DEMS. It's very true, John. Apparently, they had the New York Post filed a FOIA request, and they got nothing, and so they appealed it, and they came back and said, a letter dated September 27th, that the agency conducted an additional search of relevant program offices for potentially responsive records. This search also produced no responsive records. Accordingly, your appeal is denied. So the Post is now evaluating legal options to acquire records of who visited the president during the nearly 200 days he's been at his Wilmington and Rehoboth Beach homes. He spent about 28% of his days during the first year as president, at least partially in Delaware. And this also the same thing in his second year. It's about 30% in both. But here's the thing. So this all goes back to Merrick Garland, believe it or not. Merrick Garland. So Merrick Garland in 2013 was the D.C. Circuit Appeals judge, and he wrote the appeal, wrote this thing that presidents can pick and choose what they reveal about White House visitor logs because of what Merrick Garland wrote. He wrote for a 3-judge panel that the president's constitutional right to confidential communications means that FOIA doesn't apply to visitors' logs kept by the Secret Service, even though they otherwise would meet the definition of agency records.
Okay.
Now, Trump chose not to release some of the West Wing visitor logs. But the group Citizens for Responsibility and Ethics in Washington, CREW, is a liberal group, sued and successfully obtained records pertaining to a Japanese delegation visit in 2017 to Mar-a-Lago. They got a list with 22 names on it. They said, well, the Secret Service came out and said they weren't betting it. The Mar-a-Lago was, Trump's team was. So Merrick Garland kind of created this loophole, I guess, that says this is all, up in the air. Yeah. So, but it's interesting, no visitor logs in Delaware. So it's a perfect thing.
Shady.
So yes, millennial vote. Yes, get the millennial vote because they don't work. Well, the millennials do. Millennials work. It's the generation after the millennials that just aren't working. They want to. They all go to part 1 was student loan forgiveness, part 2 cannabis. Yeah. Executive privilege. Yeah. Well, Trump didn't get executive privilege. Every president but Trump gets executive privilege. They asked who visited the home, not the basement. That's why they can't find anything.
I like that.
Executive order. We knew what you meant, executive order, but executive privilege too. Executive privilege too. Okay. So did you see this happen? DACA, since we were just talking about an executive order, right? And how the president can't make law, right?
Yep.
So DACA was created in 2012 by, at the time, the DHS secretary, who's Janet Napolitano. And she did it by a memo after Congress, because Congress didn't pass immigration reform legislation, and they wanted these people protected, because their parents brought them here when they were children, blah, 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 blah. And
which I honestly, and I agree with, but you should do it through Congress, not executive order, but continue.
It should be done through Congress, and I think we can even discuss whether this should be a thing, because there's incentive then to bring your kid to the country illegally, right? As a child, so you hide away as long as you can, and then your kid gets amnesty. Your kid gets to become a citizen, and then appeals for citizenship for the 2 people who broke the law to bring them here.
Right.
If you can't get to school because you don't have a car, and your dad steals a car and gives it to you so you can get to school, should you be able to keep the car? I mean, it's for a noble cause. It's that you can go to school and you can get your education, you become a better person. He did it for the right reason, but should you be allowed to keep the car?
I partly agree with that statement, right? I get where you're headed, but I do think if you're a person remember, we got to the point where some of those people had been here 20 years, you can't send it back.
But if you've evaded the law for 20 years, you just get away with it and we hand you citizenship?
Yeah, because those people don't have a life in the place where their parents lived, right? They're not Peruvian. You can't just send a 20-year-old who's a part of our society now to Peru or to the worst places in the world because of their parents' mistake. Like, I do agree. If you want to send their parents home, I could even understand that, the people who came here illegally. But I don't agree with maybe they're bad parents. You keep the child and you send the parent home. But sending a person who doesn't know the culture, the language, or whatever, just throwing them out of our country is not American. That's just not how we operate. It's not America.
Okay, now you sound like Barack Obama. That's not who we are. That's not what we do.
I'm for border. But here's the thing. I'm for borders. Here's the thing. Stop the people at the border and only let this happen for the people it rightfully should happen for. But we need to stop people at the border, right? That's the problem. The problem to me isn't the compassion of letting somebody born here and the privilege of being born here be born here. The problem is border security. The problem is dum-dums aren't closing the border up, right? I mean, they're making maybe a concerted effort to let these people in. All of that is wrong and contributing to why this law feels so bad. If it was done in a way that we weren't having this massive illegal immigration problem, we wouldn't be doing that way at the law. We would be like, hey, you came here right, and then you bore a child here. Well, now your child is a citizen. That's the way it was intended. You're in the military. You marry a foreign person. They have a child here. The child is an American. They're on American soil somewhere. They're an American. That's the principle of the law that I agree with. It's the illegal immigration part that I don't agree with.
And we're not talking about anchor babies. We're talking about people who brought a child illegally across the border, broke our laws for 20 years, successfully evaded living as a criminal. If you sent the whole family back, I guarantee you parents would think twice before doing it again, because their kids would be miserable, and so would the parents. And you know what? Lesson learned. Do it the right way. Rewarding them is awful. I think rewarding them is terrible.
Well, don't reward them. Put their parents in jail.
So adults pay for their parents in jail, and then when their parents get out, these kids are going to sponsor them. No.
Well, they're not going to sponsor them. They're going to pay a price for doing the thing that was illegal. Make them criminals and put them in jail. But their kids aren't criminals. That's my point. Their kids aren't the criminal. The parents are the problem. Penalize the parents.
But the kids are here illegally as well, because the parents came here illegally. They knew the child they brought across the border was brought here illegally. So all three, mom, dad, kid, here illegally. That's it. And they took a chance and said, oh, don't worry about it. They're never going to deport you. You're going to get to be a citizen. It's no big deal. Well, maybe if we sent them back, that would change. So I'm sorry. I don't like just handing out citizenship like it's candy. Oh, well, you don't know
I agree.
Sure, come on, have some. Don't worry about it. We don't make them speak English. We don't make them learn how to read and write English. They get all sorts of benefits without paying it. No, done. I'm sorry. I'm up to here with it. So that's right. See, spot on, Mary. That's right. Don't care if they know the culture of where they came from. It's not our problem. Agreed. The parents rolled the dice on this. The parents chose to put their children in this situation. Their parents chose to illegally bring that child across the border. And now the parents and the kids have to bear the brunt of their bad decisions. That's just the way it goes. It was not intended that way. You're 100% right.
Well, right. I agree with
14th Amendment has nothing to do with illegal immigration. 100%. That was for the slaves who were born here, that they got citizenship. That's what the 14th Amendment was for. It was not for someone who, and it was only until the 1960s that it started interpreting the law, the 14th Amendment, that way, that if you walked across the border illegally and successfully popped out a baby, that kid gets to be a citizen and gets to sponsor you. That didn't start until the 60s.
Also designed for military families and other things. Like they've applied it to other rational things, right? That's the premise of the law.
Not criminals.
Yeah, so fix the illegal immigration problem.
How about there's a lot of things we can fix. There's a lot of ways we can fix it. One of the things we can fix is this. So anyway, it was created by Secretary Janet Napolitano with a memo. She doesn't have the right to create law. And everybody said at the time that this was illegally, you can't create this program because you're creating a new immigration law and you don't have the right to do it. So in 2021, the U.S. District Court for the Southern District of Texas declared DACA invalid. And so the Biden administration reintroduced the program using a lengthier process. And since then, nearly 800,000 applicants for DACA have been approved. We cannot absorb this many people into this country. This is insane. We're absorbing over 2 million people a year. And this is another 800,000 on top of that. That's the population of a lot of cities. We don't have the resources to absorb this. So the federal judge's decision in July of 21 concluded that the way that the Obama administration went about creating DACA went against how Congress allows immigration levels to be set. So yesterday, the Fifth Circuit ruled on the Biden administration's appeal of the decision. So the Biden administration said, we're going to appeal this ruling. So they appealed it and they lost. And so what the judge said is that you can't approve anybody else. And as of right now, those who are DACA recipients who are still in that program, well, we don't know what's going to happen to you, but you can't approve anybody else. We're done.
So they put it up. Now they either have to pass a law or lose.
Right. And, James Bond here is right. It was not intended for military families because if your parents are both American, it doesn't matter where you were born. So 14th Amendment was not intended for American families. It was for slavery, so that the children of slaves would be American
No,
citizens.
I was saying they've used that law for these things now. They've used it to guarantee that military families born anywhere in the world on American soil, or if you're born to American parents, your baby is American. That's the way they've intended. They've used that now, right?
No,
Yeah.
because if both your parents are American citizens, you're an American citizen, whether you're born at the North Pole or you're born in Jersey.
No, but not both. I said one. So let's say you married a Vietnamese woman, right? And you're in another area. That kid is American because you have an American father and they're born on American soil. It's not Vietnamese because you have a Vietnamese mom.
We took the parents in jail for. My picture just got very fuzzy, didn't it?
It did. It got oddly fuzzy.
There it cleared up. There we go.
Yeah.
We stick the parents in jail first, then deport them. The kids can stay with the person who has legal status in this country.
That's what I said.
And we don't allow the kid to sponsor them for citizenship either.
That's what I said. Fix the immigration problem, but don't penalize the kid. Let the kid live here without the parents. The parents are criminals. Let them go to jail like anybody else who's lose their parents. When the parents are released,
they can either be deported or take their children with them and come back the legal way. There you go.
Yeah.
There you go. Deport the kids when they're 18. If they were born here, they can come back. There you go.
They can't. They'll come back illegally.
Here's another one. Let's move on because we have a lot to talk about. Let's see. What is this? Right. We got that. Okay. Just want to make sure I'm keeping up with all of your comments. I love that everybody's commenting. This is great.
Yes.
Come on, John. On Getter. Let's go. I'm looking over there. Looking at you. Okay. 5 IRS employees allegedly stole $400,000, about $400,000, after fraudulently applying for more than $1.1 million in relief in government funding intended for small businesses damaged by COVID, according to the DOJ. The majority of the fraudulently obtained funds were spent on luxury clothing, jewelry, and other personal services. One employee purchased a Mercedes-Benz and another took a vacation to Las Vegas.
So stupid. Didn't these dum-dums watch Goodfellas when they tell you, like, hey, you don't spend the money and then the mob has to kill you because you bought a Cadillac? Like, you got all this money. You're supposed to keep it on the down low. I hate these people that do that, too, that steal government money like that and use it for their own.
And less than 2 weeks ago, the Department of Labor announced that 1,000 individuals have been charged in connection with the theft of more than $45 billion in fraudulent unemployment insurance benefits that were extended during the COVID-19 pandemic. How did they not see this coming? They were handing out water like crack, like a crack dealer on the boardwalk in Atlantic City. No offense to Atlantic City. This is just an analogy. Times Square, how's that? Penn Station. They were handing out money like it's in the meantime. We have some businesses, we had to jump through tons of hoops in order to get any kind of money. It was ridiculous. Right.
Yeah, it's bonkers the money they were handing out.
John, my grandparents came here and they had to prove they were learning English. They had to have sponsors. They had to prove that they had a job. If they lost their job, they knew they could be deported. Linnea, I love Linnea, our friend Linnea. They had to prove that they could read and write English. If they lost their job, they knew they could be deported. We hand it away. We give it out now. We put zero value on citizenship and hand it out because it's mean to make people work for it. You just used IRS and stole in the same sentence.
Sit-ups.
John, oh yeah, they're both. These people are all part of. If you go on Facebook and you look for Mary Walter, I have a public page. And on the page is it says subscribe, and you can click that link, the subscribe link. Although I changed my profile page and my banner, so I have to just see if it's still there. But you click it, and it'll take you to a group that we have. It's a private group where we discuss politics, but we all get along. It doesn't matter whether you're left or right, no name calling, that kind of stuff. But everybody gets along. So if you want to join me, that's where it is. All right. Let's see. One allegedly applied for $501,000 in economic injury disaster loan program funds, ultimately receiving $171,400, which he bought a Mercedes-Benz and invested it in an investment fund. Another applied for $32,500 in the disaster loan and PPP funds and got $11,500, and she spent on personal services and luxuries such as massages, manicures, and clothing. That is like the last thing I would do if I got that kind of money. That is the last thing I would do. or I'm not gonna I'm gonna buy lottery tickets, or I'm gonna not even that. I'm gonna invest it, and then if they come to get the
Yeah.
money, here's the money, but at least I made some interest on it.
Hopefully they don't take the interest too. Right.
Well, they probably do. Let's see.
But yeah, I'm with
Let's
you.
Yeah.
I'm
So
not
each
buying a
count of
Mercedes.
wire fraud comes with a maximum sentence of 20 years in prison. Each count of money laundering comes with a maximum sentence of 10 years.
I
Far
hope they
more
get
than
all 10 years.
5 more than Hunter Biden's going to get.
Yeah, for doing at least that bad.
Exactly. Okay. So remember I said we were talking before about Ghislaine Maxwell. You brought up Ghislaine
Yeah.
Maxwell.
Yeah.
And I said there's a meme going around that they're raiding all these people. A pro-life activist's home was raided by the FBI, and they took him out shackled on his hands and feet. And even though he said he would turn himself into the FBI, oh, you want me? I'll come in when you want me. But Ghislaine Maxwell, nobody in her little black book has been raided.
Yeah.
They raided another pro-life activist's home yesterday. The DOJ, according to PJ Media, and I'll put all these links, of course, at the in the body of YouTube of the podcast. Hello. They say it looks like they're combing through old pro-life protests and looking for opportunities to apply the Freedom of Access to Clinic Entrances, or FACE Act. That's what they got that other guy for. That had gone to a Pennsylvania judge. They threw it out of court. They're like, this doesn't, nothing applies here. Out you go. Well, now there's reports that the FBI raided the home of a 73-year-old pro-life activist named Chester Gallagher. According to his neighbors, he was out of state when the FBI arrived with guns drawn, and they entered his home. When they learned he was not there, they reportedly attempted to gain information on his whereabouts. They went to the neighbors to find out where he was. So, of course, they want to embarrass him. The neighbors are like, oh my gosh, they came looking for John, for Chet. Where is he? So this happened, they're saying a rescue event that happened in March of 2021. During these events, pro-life activists reach out to women who are seeking an abortion, and they attempt to persuade them to change their minds. The DOJ is charging him and 6 other pro-life activists who joined an event in Tennessee at an abortion facility. They're being charged with conspiracy against rights secured by the FACE Act and committing FACE Act violations. They're charging 4 other participants with violations under the Act. The only home they raided, though, was Gallagher's. The other 10 participants got calls from the FBI instructing them just telling them to turn themselves in. But this guy gets raided.
I will say about raids, and I'm not saying the raid is right, but I did hear a fascinating discussion about it was like the last of the biggest negotiators for the FBI. He's an FBI negotiator. He's on I'll plug it to the Jocko Willink podcast. Everybody's Navy SEAL Jocko Willink was on his podcast. I think it's 354. But not talking about these raids at all, but talking about the construction of how the FBI thinks and how they go about arresting people. He was talking about that they don't believe in the idea of you having to manhandle people you're going to arrest. Their entire thought process is overwhelming force, so there's no danger of having to get into a firefight or a fight or even having to overly they always believe in overwhelming force. And I thought that's really funny, and all the stuff we're hearing about that's somewhat part of their doctrine, that all these raids we're hearing about are all of these people. I'm like, oh, maybe that is just what they do. Now, I'm not saying they're applying the raids to the right people or fairly, but I do think the showing up with overwhelming force now is probably just what they do. I don't think to Democrats, they show up with 2 people and only, hey man, we're going to, I think even if a Democrat, they would still show up with, 50 cars and all the armed guys like that. I don't think that's going to change because of who you are, but I do think they could be raiding people for who they are. So that's, I didn't want to think that what they were doing was
right.
wrong.
But it doesn't make sense that they raid one guy, but the other 10 just get a phone call asking them to show up. That's
exactly what I mean. Yeah, that makes no sense at all. Right.
So let's see. The charges are that they used physical force and physical obstruction to injure, intimidate, and interfere with employees of the clinic and a patient who was seeking reproductive health services. Now, just like the other guy who got raided last week, the case didn't even make it to, well, this one didn't even make it to court. On the day of the event, officers arrested several participants on misdemeanor trespassing charges. There were no charges of verbal or physical assault against the protesters. After they posted bail, they were released. That was it.
So the point of the raid was because you trespassed somewhere?
Well, there's I don't know what the point of this is. They're
right.
saying that
right. It makes no sense at all.
They used force and physical. The DOJ is saying they used force and physical obstruction to injure, intimidate, and interfere with employees of the clinic and a patient who was seeking reproductive health services. Yet the police didn't charge them with verbal or physical assault.
They just So either they don't have a case and they're just trying to embarrass a guy, or I don't know.
Well, that's what they're trying to do. I think that's right.
Yeah.
Now, the woman who greenlit this is Assistant Attorney General for the Civil Rights Division. Her name is Kristen Clark. And during her confirmation, Republicans pointed out her past statements and positions warning that she would radicalize the Civil Rights Division. So maybe she did.
But so, by the way, this guy is claiming like I didn't do that, right? I didn't go to an abortion clinic and get and bother people.
No, they were inside a building where there were other offices as well as the abortion clinic, and they were praying and singing.
Right. Right. That's what I'm saying. So he's not admitting that he did the thing they're saying. He's denying it, right? He's saying, I never hurt anybody. I never went in and bothered or manhandled anybody. We just prayed in front of the thing, right? That's all he said they're doing. And I see that there's a women's clinic in Cherry Hill near where I live, and I see people out there peacefully protesting and praying all the time. They're not bothering anybody.
Well, let's see. As the DOJ on the Gallagher case, so this case, the case notes say this case was investigated by the FBI and is being prosecuted by the Civil Rights Coordinator of the U.S. Attorney Office and the trial attorneys of the Department's Civil Rights Division. Why? If they paid their bail and they left and nothing came of it and the police didn't charge anything, why are they going back?
Right.
It looks like they're
100% logical question.
Selectively looking for people to prosecute, doesn't it? To make people afraid.
Can't prosecute this guy. See ya.
A pro-life activist was interviewed here. His name is AJ Hurley, and said the FBI isn't even performing the investigations. The DOJ is doing their own investigations and using the FBI as their arm of that organization. Normally, the FBI does an investigation, and if they find someone guilty of federal crimes, they issue warrants. Instead, the DOJ is sending local branches of the FBI with arrest warrants to be their strong arm. This is a new tactic that the DOJ has been throwing at pro-lifers to see if the charges stick. And then they go on to say in this piece something that you touched on here. Oh, look who's with us.
Yeah.
Tina. Tina goes back to the days of this show back in the teens, so Tina's great. I didn't miss your poem, Al. It was up on the screen. Roses are red, violets are blue, taxation is theft, and inflation is too. I just can't read them all if we're in a different story, but I put it up on the screen. So what they're saying, and this goes to your point, James, is that FBI field agents stood by while the Biden DOJ dropped cases against criminals who rioted, set fires, looted, and assaulted officers during the Summer of Love. They remain silent as the administration takes no action to find members of Jane's Revenge, the group that is claiming to attack pregnancy centers, or the criminals who are destroying churches. But they don their gear, they roll up to the houses of nonviolent pro-life activists with guns drawn. Field agents are no longer passive actors simply taking orders. They were active participants in helping the Biden DOJ enforce two standards of justice.
Yep.
He's right.
I'm pro-choice, and I don't have a single problem with people protesting and silently and praying and doing their piece. And if this guy did what he did, I'd be all for burning him. But if he didn't, this is horribly mishandled, and I'm being,
But see, it's
understated.
It's lawfare. The point is to keep people, to scare people. This is what an authoritarian government does. They scare the opposition from praying in front of an abortion clinic, from singing in the hallway, from doing nonviolent things, because even if you get arrested, they're like, okay, we got arrested, we post our bail, we're out, no big deal. But if the DOJ is going to come back years later, raid your home, go to your neighbors to talk to them about you. So there's the embarrassment factor, right? Do that to try to dissuade you from doing it. Scare the bejesus out of your kids, your family. And now you have to pay a lawyer to prove that you didn't do something. And so it's lawfare. It's to beat these people into the ground, because if they can't afford it, if they can get one or two in jail, get in front of a judge, they'll get hammered like the January 6th people are getting hammered. They were charged with disorderly trespass, and now they can't own guns, and they have to write, pieces disavowing Trump, and they stay in prison for a year and a half waiting for their day in court. It's what they do in third world countries. This is what a totalitarian regime does.
I've always said it too, why people should be upset about things, whether you, again, not being partisan, just looking at what's happening and how it's happening to certain people. I apply it to the same thing I was taught when I was a kid about censorship. I've had really smart parents. And the idea was, what you think is bad today could be the thing that you think is right and important tomorrow that they're coming after, right? So you may not like the pro-life movement because you're pro-choice. Okay, but you can't be on board with the government doing wrong things to people you don't like, because tomorrow that could be you. Right. You could be the thing they don't like suddenly. And then now they're coming after you, and you go, hey, that's not right. Well, yeah, it's not right for anybody. That's why you have to evenly apply laws to the country and not to a party or a person. It's got to be evenly applied to everybody for you to feel safe and calm. Or like you said, it starts feeling, which it is, like a third world country. Now, I've been pretty anti-government for a while, so I'm not new to the game of distrusting the government. I'm pretty on board with it. You don't have to do a lot to convince me that they're doing something shady. They've always been somewhat shady, but it is ramping up.
Well, you talk about somewhat shady very quickly. We were watching a special on George Washington, which is hard for me to say for some reason. I sound like Nancy Pelosi when I say George Washington.
Do that fast. George Washington. Do it fast. Go.
But so when he was president, they, we didn't know what a president should do. Nobody knew. But he had a group in his own government. It was Jefferson and some others who were part of they served in the administration in some way. You didn't have cabinet, you didn't have any of this, so it served in the administration. So they're getting paid, and they were using federal money to start their own newspaper to trash George Washington, because they wanted a big government, and George Washington didn't believe in a big government. And so they wanted to get him out. They destroyed that man. It was ugly what they did to him, and they were using federal dollars to do it. So it started a long time ago, and it ain't going to change.
Washington left after 2 terms, could have been king. People forget that. He could have been king, and he left after 2 terms on his own, understanding that this is what needs to happen in the government. We can't have somebody in here over and over and building up a monopoly or an empire. All the reasons they thought there shouldn't be political parties or any of that. Right? I mean, that's the premise behind his whole thought process.
But they also were destroying him. They were just smearing him like they did to Donald Trump. I mean, it was just incredible what they did to him and what they said about him. And they were using federal money to do it. So there you go.
There's the punchline.
Okay, very quickly before we run out of time, because we don't have a lot left.
Al said us we should do another hour because he's having a good time.
Yeah. I have to feed the cats. I can't do that. Okay, all right. So just some election news that you probably haven't heard, and I wanted to share with you. 6 counties in Minnesota have more than 500 duplicate registrations on their voter rolls, according to the Public Interest Legal Foundation. They filed 6 complaints in 6 counties across Minnesota for allegedly keeping duplicate registrations on their voter rolls. For mail-in voting purposes, such registrations allow one voter to get multiple ballots, right? Because you're registered more than once, you're going to get more than one ballot. Listen, when I was in D.C., they just sent ballots to everybody. So even if you weren't a D.C. resident, I was on D.C. I actually was in Maryland, but everybody would get a ballot. And I got mail for the people who used to live there, so they never forwarded their mail. Like, I forwarded mine, but they only forwarded it for not even, I think it's like 6 months now. So for all I know, some of my mail is still going there. I have no idea. But I know somebody in D.C. who lived in D.C., and in the 2020, run up to the 2020 election, he got 5 ballots with 5 different people's names on it who used to live in his apartment.
Yeah. And by the way, am I right that if you have a felony, you can't vote?
Yes.
On your record?
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you find it fascinating that I'm registered to vote and that, let's just be real here. I don't think they're listening to our show. I've voted before. Nobody's checked. Nobody's gone back and said, hey, you have a criminal record. You can't vote here. That's never come up.
You have a felony?
Yeah, we talked about this on the show years ago, from when I'm 18.
Oh, when you're 18.
Yeah,
I
from when I'm
don't
18.
know. I don't know.
I was told then I'm never going to be allowed to vote ever again. I was told immediately then you're off the voter. You can never vote as a convicted felon for the rest of your life unless it gets expunged. And
right, hold on.
Not expunged. I can't imagine they changed the law.
Yeah, they did in New Jersey. Hold on.
Get out.
No, hold on. You lose your voting rights. However, once you complete your prison sentence, probation, or parole, your voting rights will be reinstated.
In Jersey?
Yep.
Wow.
So you're good.
So when did that change? Does it say?
Well, that's from 2019. I don't know when it changed.
Oh yeah, mine was 1991. That's how far back we're going. So they must have changed it. That's amazing. Yeah. Okay. So it turns out I'm not committing voter fraud. Who knew?
Yeah. So now in one county, 4 residents are allegedly registered to vote twice, including a convicted felon, a violent sex offender who's considered mentally ill and dangerous by state officials. He sexually abused a 13-year-old girl in 1999. In 2017, he pleaded guilty to dragging a woman by her hair into the bathroom of a residence in Minnesota before beating her unconscious, raping her, and then stabbing her with a weapon. He served 45 months in prison and was required to register as a sex predator. He voted twice in the 2020 election. Twice.
You're why I'm up at night. So crazy. It's so bonkers. And I think election fraud has always been going on. But again, like it's getting, especially with mail-in stuff, it really is getting worse, especially when you can just send some guy to registrations.
So great meme. I posted it on my Facebook page and in the group. And by the way, some people are sending me, they find my private Facebook page and you're sending me friend requests. I don't accept friend requests from people I don't know. Okay. So just, I have a public page, but my private page, it's for like friends, family. James is there, that kind of thing. Like people like I've actually know are on that page. So please don't be insulted if I don't accept. So there's a meme and I posted it and it says, hey, next, if you take $500, put it in an envelope and mail it to yourself. If you don't want to do that because you don't think you're going to get your money back, why do you mail your vote?
Right.
Why do you mail in your vote?
Again, there's certainly states that have made it work, but I don't think it should be for anything more than you need to. Yeah, you know what I mean? Like, if there's a need to mail in vote, okay, but it seems silly to make that privilege for everybody in the country just because you want to.
It's ridiculous.
But I also think there should be a paid holiday on voting day. Like, I think it's a part of our civic duty. We should all be allowed to take the day off and go vote and do the important thing for your country and pay attention to what's going on and be part of these elections. I think if there was more incentive for people to do it, you would do it.
Who's off on paid federal holidays? Who's off?
Teachers, I guess.
Union members and federal and government and state workers.
Right.
Those are the only people. They all vote Democrat. So the reason you know when you have a paid holiday off, the only people who get that day off are going to be the Democrat supporters. Right. Doctors, nurses, pilots, TV and radio people who have their own business, they're not closing down. But they somehow managed to find a way to get to the polls.
Some of them, yeah.
And Tina, no, I don't know you. I couldn't pick you out of a lineup. Love you, but I don't really know you. So thanks.
I do think, but to my point, you know, I don't know. I don't think everybody, if you're forced to go to work, I think most people then don't think it's that important to vote.
Well,
that's lots of people's rationale, right?
If you don't think it's that important, then that's on you. And if you don't vote, you don't get to complain. And if you're going to be away, I've had to do it. You know, I applied for an absentee ballot when I was going to be in Maryland when I was working, and I couldn't vote in New Jersey. I couldn't vote in my polling place. So I applied for an absentee ballot. There you go. If we're going to be away on vacation, I apply for an absentee ballot. If voting isn't important enough to you, I'm sorry, I don't think we should change the rules just to make it easy because you're lazy.
I do. I think more important to have people involved who, rather than a small pool of tiny people making the decisions for us. And, you know, I look, I think saying nothing is your right in free speech, right? But for the way they complain that voting is a right, that's why you can't take away, you have to have a driver's license or any of that, then you should force people to vote.
No.
Don't make it a
No.
decision.
I want quality voters, not quantity of voters.
Oh, I love this debate. Yeah.
Okay.
In fairness,
I don't want the
kind
guy
of
who has no clue what the hell he's voting for when he walks in there and picks the name that looks familiar. No, you can sit your butt home. I want people who are informed and who feel it's important to vote. And if the other people can't find the time to do it, too bad, so sad. You know,
But
I'm done.
To your logic, people who are informed the vote wouldn't be voting for these dirtballs we're voting in. Right? You would be angrier on both sides and want quality candidates because you're spending your time to go vote. So exactly. I do think we have a real problem with just accepting, and we've talked about this. It's hard to get good people to do it because of the scrutiny go through and all that. But to that end, you know, I'm pretty sure we can count the good ones on both hands at best.
Of course, and I think a lot of them start out good and then they lose it. But see, like James says, other nations seem to be able to pull off a single day voting and tabulate all the votes, and you know who won that day. It doesn't take 2 weeks to figure it out when then there's hanky panky and everything else going on. I want informed voters. Yes.
Well, right. Well, sure. But I mean, you get my point. I mean, there's a reason why you still have a Schumer and a McConnell. Right. You think McConnell should, any voter on the planet who does their research should look at McConnell. I can't imagine the Democrat running in any of these situations is worse than McConnell, who has proven to be terrible at this point in life. You should be willing to take a chance on anybody else other than McConnell, but we're so partisan and uninformed, like you said, then you get people who just want to tick off a box. Right?
Exactly.
I would take a chance on the Libertarian or the Green Party in his state before I would vote McConnell back in. Right? Yeah. And the same thing in Schumer's state. Whoever's running against Schumer, whatever Republican, Libertarian, or Green Party person running against Chuck Schumer is the better choice this time around than Chuck Schumer. Right. Whoever they are.
Well, my point. So you agree with me then, because when you have when you have quantity over quality, you wind up with dummies. So if we can vote and tabulate using non-electric means, why can't we? 100%. Linnea said, I want informed voters. Yes, Linnea, go. All right, very quickly, because we are way over time here. James is fired up today, so I blame him. All right, so True the Vote is the group that worked with Dinesh D'Souza to make 2,000 Mules. If you haven't seen that movie, fantastic movie. I'm telling you. Spend the $20 to just rent the damn movie. It's so good. It's so good.
I should watch it. Yeah.
So that group has been involved with this alleging that this company called Connect Corporations, Konnech.
Okay.
And they said that they were hinky when it came to the elections. That's what they're alleging. Well, their CEO was just arrested in Michigan and held on suspicion of a theft of personal identifying information, while computer hard drives and other digital evidence were seized by investigators from the county district attorney's office. They said in a statement that any LA County poll worker data that Connect may have possessed was provided to it by LA County and therefore could not have been stolen as suggested. So, because when this stuff is electronic, you could just put a hard drive in there, a thumb drive, and there's these little thumb drives that are put in bags that are supposed to make it to wherever you're going with this stuff, and they're not going to get lost. My husband has a thumb drive that has his life on it, and he loses it at least twice a week. There's panic in the house because he can't find the thumb drive. I finally made him put it on a lanyard because we spent
That's a great idea.
We wound up going on vacation late. Remember I told you this story? We went on vacation late because we had to drive all 2 hours in parking lots and everywhere else before he got home. Subway, all these other places, or Jersey Mike's actually, to find out maybe he dropped it, looking under cars in the parking lot on my hands and knees in the 7-Eleven parking lot. I was ready to kill him. I was ready to absolutely flip and kill him. So how easy is it to just oopsie lose those thumb drives, right?
Now, I'd like to point out James's point here, right? Countries like Mexico make you place your fingerprint on it. That's a great idea for America. I love that idea.
I don't like that idea because the government doesn't need, I mean, they already have it because I've had like 10,000 Secret Service background checks, on my firearms ID card and that kind of stuff. So that's a little bit much. And James, you're frozen. So I just thought I'd let you know you're frozen going like that. You're frozen making a not so flattering face. Oh, wait, more comments come in. Linnea and John, how can one be informed if all their info comes from one dedicated source? Exactly. Okay, so this company is based in East Lansing, Michigan. It won a 5-year, $2.9 million contract with LA County for software to track election worker schedules, training, payroll, and communications. It was required to keep the data in the U.S. and only provide access to citizens and permanent residents, but instead they stored it on servers in the People's Republic of China, according to the DA. The man arrested is Eugene Yu. Why Yu? He is Asian, yes. He's probably Chinese. I don't know that. So they're alleging, the DA is alleging that all this was just stored on servers in the People's Republic of China. And you don't know where this stuff is going. Who knows where these servers are? Nobody knows. And that's the problem. That's a problem. Which I'm all for the old-fashioned, paper ballots. I'm all for that. I think the computerized stuff just leaves up too many hijinks. Leaves it open to that. I think James is back. Welcome back.
I am back. Was that you or me?
You.
Were you on the whole time? Oh, because my whole screen went black. I just texted you. That's funny.
It was a picture of you frozen going.
Oh.
It was.
Yay! Internet.
There was not any evidence that any election worker was bribed or extorted. An investigation was pending into whether any of the data went into inappropriate hands. Well, if it was stored on the server in China, I'm going to go right there as inappropriate. Just say like right there, it's inappropriate. Yeah, the government already has my fingerprint too, James. Man, pretty sure. They say, but they had previously said all the data for their American customers are on servers in the United States. It was reported that Connect and Yu, who was born in China, told you, became the target of claims by election conspiracy theorists. This True the Voter now election conspiracy theorists. But they were right. Like, how many times does the mainstream media call somebody, a conspiracy theorist or this or that or something else, and they wind up having to walk it back?
Right.
There wasn't any evidence to support those claims, but you received threats and went into hiding, according to the paper, which I don't know who did this, but anyway. But there wasn't anything to support those claims. He got arrested. Now, maybe some of the other claims that they made, there was nothing to support that. But there was allegedly hanky-panky. Yeah. So, it's a conspiracy on Monday, and by Wednesday, the guy's arrested. You know what I mean? Like, the timeline from conspiracy to truth.
Hey, Mary, the next time you're bored, right? I don't need them. You'll tell me. The next time you're bored, right? Come to Atlantic City and go out with us. And you got to come to that big show in December. That's for Toys for Tots. You're gonna love it.
That's Jim Crane does. Jim Crane does a great show, Toys for Tots in Atlantic City. What's the date?
Oh, I didn't know you were on.
Yeah, we're on.
I'm sorry.
What's the date?
December 9th at Resorts Casino. It's for Toys for Tots. It's called Swing into Christmas. It's our 8th year.
It's a great.
And all you got to do to get in is bring a toy.
It's a great event if you can make it. If you're in Atlantic City, December 8th at Resorts. It's a fantastic charity. It's wonderful, and Jim is is hilarious, and James will be there. I will not be there because I can't. You do know that face frozen. James could have made a new fun meme if you took.
I encourage that 100%. And if you want to make memes about me, you can say and do and make them as funny or crazy as you want, and I will appreciate you. I will never be mad because you made a meme about me, no matter what you say. I will laugh every time.
All right, one more story, and then we'll let everybody go. One more story.
All right.
This one out of Breitbart.
Last story.
On Tuesday, the D.C. City Council voted 12-1 to advance a bill that will allow foreign nationals, regardless if they have visas or are in the United States illegally, to vote in local elections such as school board races and mayoral elections. It says our immigrant nation, all statuses participate, contribute, and care about our community and our city. According to Council Member Charles Allen, Democrat, because everybody's a Democrat in D.C. They, like all D.C. residents, deserve a right to have a say in their government. There's only one woman, a councilwoman, Mary Che. She's also a Democrat. Well, they're all Democrats. The whole board is Democrat. Voted against the bill, suggesting she would have supported it had provisions included a 30-day residency requirement for foreign nationals looking to register to vote. She said, could someone who took the bus from Texas or was put on the bus from Texas or wherever and dropped off at the vice president's property and then remained in the District of Columbia for 30 days and was 18 years old, could that person then vote in our local elections? And the answer was yes. New York State Supreme Court struck down a similar law passed by the New York City Council that wanted to allow nearly 1 million foreign nationals the ability to vote in municipal elections.
I think you saw that I have some sympathies on some level of humanity for people in situations, but I have no stomach for the concept that if you're not here as a citizen, you can vote. I don't care who you are, how nice you are, or even if I think you belong here, which I don't think everybody does, but even if I think you belong here, great. But you have to be a citizen to vote. That's a right as an American. You're not an American until you're a citizen.
Well, that's why they're going to make them all Americans. That's why they want DACA so badly, because they want to make them all Americans, because they think they'll all vote Democrat, and then they can have one party rule from now till the end of time. That's what they want.
And yet, by the way, it's pouring out that a lot of Latinos are going conservative. So it's not even a good concept. You're bringing people over on boats that are theoretically, now I know that's the ones that are here, but you live in a community, but wait, you live in a community is my point, right? And I'm not saying all communities vote the same, but if you come into a community and they're all like, okay, well, those people let you in off the boat, but they're terrible people and this is why, and this is how our community votes. I'm just saying it's not the guaranteed thing that they think it is. It's a stupid concept to let people in because you think it's going to make you a voting party. These people are eventually going to live and decide what they live and believe, right? Very few people, I mean, there are extremes, but not everybody on the planet is a robot for their party.
Liberals cannot win with their ideas, so they're just trying to bring more and more and more and more voters in so that they can win that way. We got to run here. Okay, so Linnea says, not unless Andy takes me to tour the Pine Barrens December 10th. I think she means you, James.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Thanks, Linnea. I got you. That's awesome.
Tina says it's probably the ghost at the station that froze you.
That's very true.
James says, crazy, you're the one with a fish hat. And then he gave you that. And then Al's out. Al says, bye. Love y'all. Love you too, Al.
Seems like we're out too, people.
Yeah. So just a couple notes. Saturday, I will be on the Wendy Bell Show on Newsmax TV, 4:30 in the afternoon. But it replays. John told me, who's watching on Getter. It's on at like the morning. I mean, it's on in the morning on Saturday morning. It's on Sunday morning. They replay it a bunch of times throughout the day. So just look for the Wendy Bell Show this coming weekend on Newsmax. I will be on there wearing the same outfit I'm wearing right now. And on Tuesday, we will have the second installment of Life with Mary Walter, 7:15 on YouTube and Getter, same place, the same YouTube channel. So we're going to have a lot of fun with that, hopefully. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. I have to do a video, though, so this is going to be interesting. And I'm not quite sure if we're going to do it live with a video, like my husband will record it. But it should be a very, very fun show. James says, all fun aside, I always support the Toys for Tots program. Can you get me the info for the one the guy mentioned? I've sent donations off out of state many times.
Yep. As soon as we start taking notations, James, I'll get all the info for you. And maybe next Thursday or next Tuesday, or Thursday.
We can make a little banner. I can make a banner and we can put it on the screen.
Yep.
All right.
We'll put a little thing about it. Yep. Yeah, it's a great program, Toys for Tots. Jim's fun and he's a beautiful, crazy person. I love him. But he does a lot for Toys for Tots, and it's a really good thing. So.
He does. And unfortunately, I'm not going to be here, so I cannot be there. Every year he has it and I can never go. So I always feel badly, but that's really sweet of you, James. Thank you for that. Appreciate that. So, all right. So that's a please like the podcast, and please also, if you get a chance, subscribe to the channel. We really, really appreciate it. And hopefully next week also for this show, we'll have some of James's band's music for the intro and maybe a little bit for the outro. We could do the same music if you want, from James's band. And we'll get some information about your band too. That it's 3 Noodle Stew, the number 3 Noodle Stew. Look them up on YouTube, and they have a channel, and you can catch some of his music, some of his band's music. So, all right, everybody, see you Tuesday right here. Have a good one. Thanks for joining us. Bye.